Q was our entry for the Baltimore 48 2015. It is like a big transition point in how we make movies and on a variety of levels. Like one was I was just getting into visual effects, like really getting into it, and we were still shooting HD. So it's not like 4K now where everything tracks so easily. I remember we were looking around for we wanted her to at one point find the clone factory. We had no building. Well, now we just add a building in with the computer. But back then it was very difficult.
Q was like the perfect example of us doing what we always tell people these film races are good for, which is trying out new people, trying out new gear. That's exactly what we did. Robin was new. Doug had brought his friend Matt.
Gear-wise, that was like really the first time I worked with the Ronin and had no idea what I was doing. DL knew what he was doing, and he was shooting a lot with it, but I remember I was trying to be too handheld with it. I'm like, this thing is kind of weird, it doesn't work, or it's not reactive, and now we love it. It's like a dolly for us. But yeah, it was a big transition point for like storytelling, visual effects, how we shoot things, how we process a film race. And I'd forgotten there was GoPro in it too. We'd used GoPros before, but I think I was leveraging like Yellow Jacket. I'm like, oh, let's do some GoPro stuff. It also kind of started instead of scoring a film, creating a soundscape for a film. Because DL put a lot of work into like finding the sounds and like editing them in. And we won Best Sound Design on that one. That was very exciting. We also won Best Directing, which I had a big laugh at first because I felt like I was like steering the ship in weird directions. But I guess retroactively, it's like, it didn't fall apart. Like we still got something done.
It was the first time we had like a makeup artist on set. It was the first time we used Dan Franco, who we had seen around in the 48s.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That was a Dan Franco origin story?
I'm pretty sure that was the first time.
I think it was the first time we used Dan.
So we had seen him in many other 48s, and we would always like chat with Dan afterwards.
Right.
Remember, it was like Dan and Maddie Howard were often in movies together. And so we would we'd always see Dan afterwards. And so it was our first time getting to work with Dan, and then he brought his son Jack on, and we've used both Jack and Dan in future projects.
That's right. Yeah, Dan was in Capsule. Jack was in Upper Melinda,
and they're both really good.
Yeah, yeah.
You directed the stuff with them on the playground.
Yeah,
you went running with it. We were still running through the woods, I was getting poison ivy all over my face.
Yeah, I forgot the playground. I mean, that was across the street.
Yeah,
back in the park, so that was good.
You edited a lot of that too.
Yeah, I edited like that section. So like the part that I directed, I also edited. Yeah. Okay, so the first thing we did was we had to go down to Baltimore and actually pick the genre, and then we get all the elements. And so, Do you guys remember what the elements were?
I don't.
It was thriller, I believe. It was like it was like thriller or suspense. It was something like that.
Starlight Films, 2012 winner, and went to the Cannes Film Festival. Thriller suspense. That's fine.
Think over that. Did we put it back and get sci-fi then? I thought sci-fi was the actual...
When I make a film, I add sci-fi to the start of it.
No, the elements were Q trailer and a roll of tape.
But that's where the sci-fi came from, I feel like.
Yes.
It's like, oh, someone named Q, that's a bizarre...
Yeah, we were like, okay, Q is like further in the alphabet. Maybe there's like a whole series of these like clones.
Right.
And we tried to figure out, are they clones? Are they aliens? Are they whatever? Do you guys remember what the line was?
The line was, sometimes the best answer is no answer.
Right.
It's the last line of the movie.
Which we used to wink at the camera and say,
we don't know.
We don't know what this is about.
It feels like a trailer. And I think that's kind of a compliment in a way, because it ends up being like more vibe over story.
On such a short time frame, it's like you just have to kind of pick something and go with it. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work, or it just ends up being confusing. And we kind of landed somewhere in the middle where it was like, I sort of get what you're going for, but it didn't totally land.
We need to find that original monologue, because I did edit it heavily in post to like add another layer of confusion.
That was not the first time we had done like a trailer for a 48, because you have Organ Trailer,
which was a trailer,
purposely a trailer.
Jim, that was how many films at the house now? Q was like the 58.
Pennington acres, yeah. It was, I don't know.
There's so many different kinds.
We have the farm next door, we have the woods, we have the lake if we need to go to it. So it's worked well. Plus two, we don't have to worry about the neighbors, so we can build fires and do crazy stuff if we want to.
I think running a backlot is like one of my dreams as I get older. It's like not even for like people to come and rent, they can if they want, but just to have our own backlot would be amazing. One of my favorite shots in the movie, which I wish we'd done more of, is that last shot of the clones all in a row. I want some more of that in the movie. If we just packed it, I want her to find the clones and like see herself, but you know.
Technology has made things so much easier.
Yes.
So you can focus on the story and less on the equipment, and that's made a big difference. And then, you know, the work you guys are doing with, you know, editing and After Effects, all the, you know, special effects, and it's only gotten better.
Mm-hmm. I remember how long it took me to like track
her.
Jenna's like freckles.
Do you remember we tried to do like she had a button on her arm?
Yeah.
And it was gonna do like a hovering screen.
Right.
Yeah, but we tried to have like special effects, like makeup, put that on. It just
fell off,
it just like was not working. I mean, that's a very movable part, so it makes sense.
I remember just, you know, being the producer always, okay, now we got to film, we got to watch the time, we got to get this thing going, you know, Dave hand rubbing all around. But yeah, we took the time to make this a good story, and yeah, I think it shows.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because the story is kind of confusing, and there is a lot of we would want to change about it or fix about it, and so like that Friday night, so Robin picks the genre, we get the elements, we go back to our house. It was just the three of us, and DL.
DL was there playing with the Ronin.
Yeah, he was helping with the story too, and I remember just like we spent so much time trying to figure out the story. It was very hard to. I think the ending was really what kept like.
It kept being a question of what are we building to.
Yeah,
like we had no shortage of ideas to how to make the first half of it really compelling, but it was a question of in service of what, where are we
the denouement, if you will.
That's a hard thing for any of these short films, especially even feature films, but like short films especially. It's like, how do you get the ending right so that it makes sense without having to just like spoon feed the audience? Like how we kept trying to figure out a way to like make it clear that these were clones that they were leaving and not coming back for, without being like, hey, they're clones, everyone, you know?
So I'm glad you said that, because like that is, if I were to sum it up, what we tried to do was this repopulation program or clone program was just abandoned. So these poor clones are going to keep waking up, possibly finishing the test or the challenge, and then having nothing else to do. And we talked about her finding the clone factory and like shutting it down, or she every time she shuts herself down, so it's a bit of like, and then the other one wakes up, so it's like this awful loop. We just kind of missed some of that connective tissue.
I think part of that came from a lot of it was still kind of being figured out as we went, just like with any of these film races that we do. And sometimes it's magic and works, and sometimes it's we have to fight our way through it to get to the end, and then we realize what all we should have done to get there in a better way.
Well, that's where you can't, with the saying, just make it look pretty, because like if we've been like fudging our way through a story, it's like, well, if it looks good, that's a really good benchmark.
It's at least something to. And
that's what we start with Capsule. Even me and Capsule, I love Capsule, but like you were like, well, just make the ship look good and shoot it pretty, and then we'll figure it out.
I mean, I think it's interesting that at the time, one of the things we didn't lean into was, well, what is that relationship? Who are the father and son? Like, who are they? Because I know now, like when, you know, in watching it now, I find that that's the thing that I would lean into, like from a script doctoring approach, is like maybe even that final scene isn't actually something like with the sci-fi stuff, you know, or at least not entirely. I would like go back and like write that final scene that you're getting glimpses of all along.
Especially knowing how good of an actor Jack was. But we had no idea like if Jack would be able to pull anything off. We knew Dan would be great, but having Jack in there, and then like I remember watching through the footage and I was like, man, this kid is great and also super creepy the way he said things, because he was so genuine about them, but within the context of our story, when he'd be like, I love you, mommy, we're just like, oh geez, that's super creepy.
I feel like if we did it today, I would lean more into like the Turing test side of things, where it'd be like, I would want people after watching it to feel bad for yelling at their Alexa. I would probably make her a robot too, not a clone. So there we go, that's different.
You know, part of that like brainstorming session that night was kind of going, I don't really know how this works. I'm trying to be helpful, but I don't really know what I'm doing, or like all of the ideas were still flying around, which was why I think my impulse was like, well, let me like, no pun intended, distill all of these like, you know, ideas into one thing, because I'm having trouble keeping it.
Waking up to a script was terrific. I remember saying like, Robin saved the day, and it wasn't like even like the final script, we at least had a roadmap. I think that's what we've learned now is like, well, let's just have a beginning, a middle, and an end of any kind of caliber, and then just start shooting. 2007, we finished God for Death. In 2014, Apocalypse Rock.
And that's when we just couldn't do it. We didn't have the margin to like do a 48-hour that year.
Right.
And we hadn't really gotten involved at the 72 Fest at that point yet.
And what I love about the film races is like you just trust your impulses and go with it. Like it might be something simple, me saying, I have a shot, like, okay, I'm following Amanda through the woods. Like that's what I want. And we just build off of that. And these like instincts you have, it's more fun to film from the hip than sometimes to like, what are the themes? What are the tie-ins? Like those kind of naturally come out in your language of creating a movie, and you have to get it done. So you have to say A or B, B, go.
Yeah, but I think that's...
You excel at that though. I feel like
we've all gotten better as a team though. Like in Q is a perfect
Sure.
example where like my instincts weren't on point and I wasn't trusting myself like visually or VFX wise. Whereas now I'm like, let's just give her like a health bar on her neck and make it look really awesome, and then we'll like, it's a bit of a style over substance, but that substance does come. So Jenna, we'd worked with before on Yellow Jacket, and she was living in New York at the time, and we just on a whim asked her because we knew we wanted a stunt actress. And she's like, Asheville never comes too far. I was like, yes, I'll take a bus down, which was great. And she had everything scheduled out and was going to be there plenty early, but the bus from New York
was delayed.
Broke down, was delayed, whatever. She ended up
delay.
being, 6 hours late or something? So when she showed up, it was like, get in makeup, get in wardrobe, go, 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 go. Because we were like, it's part of the reason of that sunset shot. It's like we were just running out of light.
And it's one of those times when like, it was nice to try out makeup for the first time, but we really didn't have time for makeup at that point. What was super helpful though was Doris, our makeup artist, was always there to add the tattoos in, because we had to keep changing her tattoo depending on,
There's blood effect for the dead
there's a
clowns.
bunch of blood effects. When she has like that open-eyed dead stare, it's actually pretty.
But the base makeup,
She does a good
it
job.
was good for making her pale.
Yeah, to make her a little more clone-like. Because we did Yellow Jacket, we were like, well, whatever genre we pull, let's see if we can make it something stunty. Because she can fall down a hill, and she can do all sorts of things, and so we ended up utilizing that as best we could. So you see her take some nice falls in this. We probably could have done even more.
I mean, she's doing so much facial performing in that in Q. You can see her like in agony a couple times, and she's like, "What's going on?" And yeah.
And behind the scenes, we were making the same faces. What's going on?
I strapped the GoPro on at one point and was running, and so you can see my hands.
Run, pregnant girl, run.
Were we
I
trying
think
to give
so.
Jenna a break? Like, was she all filming something else?
We were probably doing 2-for-1.
Probably.
Like, yeah, so
Yeah,
some
that
of those
was-
trail shots.
That was something we did really well, and this was utilizing a second unit, and maybe even a third unit. No, I guess it was always like there were always.
This is our
often
most
had-
indie film with like, everyone has a camera, let's film.
Not quite though. It was intentional.
Yeah.
So like, the second unit, you guys were still filming stuff with Jenna while Robin and me and Matt and Ian went off and filmed the playground stuff. But then there's also like the GoPro, so we were able to film some POV stuff while Jenna was probably off filming something else. And so we were just able to like utilize the little bit of time that we had and utilize the multiple cameras that we had.
Yeah. And I think it's something that is cool about our team is the ability to create the sense of a bigger world than we know what's going on. So it's like, even though the film, if you really poke at it, you're like, what's this actually about? But it gives that kind of like, okay, maybe I'm missing something.
Because you can only figure out so many aspects of this world before you have to start shooting.
Right. I feel like performance really drives that. I mean, like, with Allie in Sophia, like some of the looks she gives to the elder, and you get like Claire and Allie and Dana Ma, like everyone's like swinging for the fences. And that really kind of grounds your film. Jenna in Q. And then even if we as creatives drop the ball in a few places story-wise or connective-wise, it's like, well, the whole piece at least is something enough that you're like, people don't dismiss it. They're like, well, let me watch it again and see if I can pick anything else up. And we just have to be ready to answer those questions if they ask us.
And one of the things I think is kind of cool is actually the color grading on Q. Like a lot of the way that you were able to make it look not like it's a creepy woods. It doesn't seem...
Well, this was the holographic woods. Like, I almost went for like a blue look, or like this is all fake. This is all like a terrarium for her to run around.
Well, just that it's austere and it's not... It definitely went for more of that like cooler, vibe as opposed to like hot and like,
or like
muggy or whatever.
Or like a warm sort, like Dana Mall is very green.
Yeah, but it also doesn't feel like a slasher where, you know, it has a very distinct sci-fi feel to it.
In fact, yeah, if I had made it now, I would have definitely made you guys. You and Dave would have been upset. Like, let's get a big piece of like the thickest plexiglass we can find to have her like run into it, and then do like a wide VFX shot where it's like this kind of cube world.
That would have made it feel a lot more Hunger Games, though.
Whatever, it's fine.
But that's where you were talking about how easy it is to just like shoot from the hip and go with your gut, whereas we're kind of feeling like, no, that's not that easy. Well, but you feel that way because you have such a good support system, and that's the key thing is like if you have like someone with a very clear vision, if they get bogged down with all the details of logistical things like what are we having for lunch and what are we doing, like are the actors ready and all those things, then you lose that vision.
Sure.
But if you can focus on the vision and then everybody else can focus on the script or, you know, what we're eating later or like where our actors are.
How we're getting from place to place.
Who's got the gear, what's coming next.
Right. And I don't mean to be too flippant. I mean, obviously, all of our work together has made it so that we can lean on those tools a lot easier. Like, well, we'll make it look pretty, add some visual effects, add some real good sound design, you know, and then patch it.
I mean, it's filmmaking principles in general, but it's also, I'm going to guess that's something you've probably just, having done so many film races, it's just something that has become part of the learning curve.
You definitely get better and better each time. I mean, Q is definitely not one of my favorites, but we learned a lot. It's still a great little film. And so it's I think it finally needs to be out there to show people. So I'm glad we're finally.
I agree. It's not one of my favorites. It'd be one that'd be great to do again if we wanted to. Mm-hmm. But you move on. We learn from it. We're talking about it today. It's always nice to see that we leverage what we've done before, and we've got a good team, you know. And we look to see where we can improve. And, you know, we bring in, you know, Robin used to be new, but now she's, I won't say old hat, but
now she's part of the
you're
core.
proven. You're
part of the core team now.
We hired you. I mean, what can I say?
Yeah.
But and when I go back and look at Q, and, you know, it's always, you know, as the producer, you're always, we got to get this done, we got to get this finished, that sort of thing. You're worried about, you know, directing and everything like that. You're thinking of editing, you're thinking about the actors and where we need to be and all that.
Scheduling.
But we do have a good team.
Yeah.
So
we have a lot of core Star Wipers that have come back every year, every time we ask.
And that was definitely something I noticed in contrast to other freelance I was doing at the time. I was just like, wow, this is Star Wipe as a community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but as a producer, I know you have a job, but at the same time, I can actually stand back and watch everything work, and it's kind of cool to see everything moving. Mm-hmm. I can go over here and watch makeup, go over here and watch some of the acting, go over here and, you know, help make meals and stuff. But it's always kind of cool to see the team really coming together. Mm-hmm. And I think it's one of the reasons we do it. Is we always have a good team.
It's, you know, it is a community like you were saying, and part of that is because we tend to treat our team like family, and, you know, it's not like we don't want to waste people's weekend. They're there giving us their time, and so we're often blown away by the fact that people that have been working with us for years and years and years still want to keep coming back. Like, there's a lot of people like Tom and Anna, I feel like, would just be tired of us by now, and they're not. They just always want to come back.
No matter how many funny hats I put Tom in, he keeps coming back.
And we just super appreciate them and Ian and like DL and Doug and like all these guys that all these people that just want to come back year after year and just keep making movies with us. It's magic.
Is this a film we could consider a director's cut?
No, director's
I don't know.
a reboot.
A reboot, or
just cut off the whole ending.
Or just redo the ending.
Yeah. Okay. So
that seems like a lot.
This video, if we get to 1,000 likes, we're gonna remake Q. It's not gonna happen.
On this video?
Yeah.
Your whole face like lit up.
Smash that like button. We're gonna make Q too. Hyper Q. It's gonna be great. We'll have all the subplots.